Welcome all you photographers and filmographers out there. We have the new iPhone X and we are going to take a look at some of the best apps to take advantage of the amazing new camera on the iPhone X, as well as the new features inside of iOS 11. Now, while there are a ton of photography and filmography apps out there, we focused on only ones that brought support to the iPhone X. So obviously we may see some more in the future, but we're going to start off with these 6. The first app up is Filmic Pro, which is also the only app on our list that exclusively focuses on actually editing or shooting videos rather than photos. Filmic Pro has been around for a long time, and they've taken advantage of a lot of the newer features in iOS 11, as well as the new better screen on the iPhone X. As far as a few basics go, you have 2 sliders on the screen, one for the exposure and one for the focus, which you can lock in or pull on these manual controls. On the right hand side, you can see as we adjust the focus. On the left, you can see as we adjust the exposure. You can see the ISO as well as the exposure on the left hand side, and go between focus and zoom on the right hand side. A couple cool things that I really like about this app is as you're adjusting the focus levels or the zoom levels, you can see what is and is not in focus using those overlaid analytics. You can also set input and output points, and it'll actually do kind of a follow focus setting going from the first point to the second point. So as you're filming, you can easily automate a zoom, setting all those manual stop points without having to go and try to move it yourself, which can often end up in shaky footage. There is tons of pro features, including the ability to adjust the white balances either manually or using several of the built-in presets. And of course, you also have an auto white balance if you don't want to do the adjusting yourself or you want to wait and do it in post. The big new screen is really helpful. You can see a lot of information on it, as well as the controls. On the bottom, you can see the frame rate as well as resolution, your timestamps, audio levels, battery life, and storage. The bottom right allows you easy access to settings, playing back your pre-recorded footage, and starting and stopping a recording. Here you can see that kind of really cool overlaid analytics when I'm adjusting the focus, and the blue and the green colors showing you what is highlighted is going to be in focus as far as what is not in focus. It's a really neat effect and really handy when you're trying to tell if something is or isn't in focus as you're filming. Tapping on any pre-recorded footage allows you to easily make adjustments to it, trim it, downgrade the quality, or share it. Inside of settings, there are tons of options that you can dig into other than the basics like frame rate. You can also put in stuff for CMS, device information, saving your presets, and more. There are still black bars in the app, but obviously that is mostly cropped just because that is the size of the image, and it still works either in portrait or landscape view. If you really want great video, try combining Filmic Pro with a gimbal like the Osmo Mobile. Next up, we have one of the few editing apps that we featured on our list, and that is Darkroom. Version 3.2 brought a bunch of new features, including a new iPhone X UI, a wide color gamut, and even support for metal rendering, which is going to be a lot smoother in editing all of those high-end photos that you're taking. They easily take advantage of the big new display. You can see all the different controls here on the bottom, how they go directly to the bottom of the phone, including cropping, filters, adjustments, curves, filters, color adjustments, and more. They've even added a few controls up into the ears of your iPhone X by adding the 3 little dots in that top right hand corner, the share sheet in top right hand corner, and the back button in the upper left. Tapping on the share sheet basically gives you another menu where you can view metadata, favorite certain photos, hide a specific photo, or even delete the photo. And obviously, tapping on the share sheet icon pulls up abilities to modify the original, save it as a copy, or export it with other services. Darkroom has always been one of my favorite photo editing apps, and it got even better here on the iPhone X. Halide is up next on our list, and they are a fantastic manual photo app as well, with just tons of controls built in. All the controls are easily accessible from one hand down on the bottom of the screen. You can see options for turning the flash on and off, enabling or disabling location services, adjusting focus manually, including an overlay of where the focus is in the image so you can easily tell, and even using the new depth features of any cameras, that any dual camera setups like on the iPhone 8 Plus, the iPhone X, or the iPhone 7 Plus. Every inch of the screen has been taken advantage of. Like in the top left hand corner, you can see a histogram of the image, and in the top right hand corner, you can see the exposure offset as we adjust it manually in the photo. And then obviously there's the shutter button right there in the center for easily snapping a pic. HDR photography has been getting incredibly popular, and an app to really take advantage of that and to take some really stunning photos is Hdr. Here you can take HDR photos, HDR videos, low light photos, zoomed photos, and high resolution photos. And it does this in a really cool way. So if we jump over to the basics like HDR, HDR normally works by shooting several photos at once and then combining them into one image. And that's exactly what they do here in Hdr. So I go ahead, put on HDR, and tap this, and it'll capture several images and stitch them all together. When it's done, you have three options: black and white, medium effect, or strong effect. For this photo, I think strong effect looks best. Tap on the gallery in the bottom left-hand photo to see any photos that you've taken or your camera roll. This is also great for taking photos in low light. It applies a similar effect by taking multiple images and stitching them together to reduce grain on those photos. And lastly, we have high resolution. This actually takes a ton of photos, like 50 to 60 photos, and puts them all together for a whopping 32 megapixel photo, which is far more than your iPhone is normally capable of taking. Once you stitch those together, you end up with a photo that is far clearer than your iPhone could normally take. For instance, let's go ahead and zoom in really close to that photo we just took on BB-8, and look how clear that photo is no matter how much we zoomed in. It's pretty incredible. And just like we had with the HDR photos, you can still go in and change the resolution. So if you don't want full 36 or 32 megapixel resolution, you can still tap on the little settings icon there in the top and change from 32 to 24 or even 18. Pro Camera is another great manual photo application. So this doesn't do any of those really fancy effects that we saw on others, but it is a really clean, easy to use photo app that keeps pretty much everything within one-handed use. You can see the exposure compensation on the bottom, easily jump between different shooting modes, whether video, photo, HDR, low light plus, low light, and selfie mode. All those are really easily within reach, and just tap on the little up and down arrow to choose a mode. There's also a built-in timer, so whether you're taking a selfie or taking a group shot, really easy access to the timer right there at the bottom. Tapping on the hamburger icon in that bottom right hand corner pulls up a medley of options to choose between, like setting the focus and exposure lock, rapid fire grips, turning on histograms, turning on anti-shake, the self timer, wide dual or tele-lens shots, the format between TIFF, RAW, JPEG, anything that you'd like really, even support for HEIF. Just another nice option that's taking advantage of all the great features here in the iPhone X, from wide color gamut to the great display to those dual lenses. And last up on our list is probably one of my favorites, which is focus. And that is focus with two O's and not just one. First, you're going to note it automatically uses those dual lenses for the camera, so you have to move a little bit further away from your subject. And it will capture that depth image, and there's really cool things you can do. For instance, adjusting your focus after you've taken the shot. So first we're going to adjust the amount of blur or bokeh that we have in our photo. Then you can just tap on the part that you want in focus and you can do that. You can also change the shape of the diaphragm, whether it's something basic like a circle or jumping into really fun shapes. Of course, in this photo, we don't have any light sources that are producing some nice bokehs, but if you upgrade to Pro, there are tons of options that you can put, and all of the bokehs in the background will actually have that shape. Here is where it gets really cool though. Under the Effects tab, here's a photo of my cat that I took in portrait mode. You can kind of tell that it's a cat. But now you can adjust the background bokeh as well as the foreground bokeh. So you can see as I'm adjusting that where it'll start to blur the image. So in this case, I want the face of my cat to definitely be in focus. So I'm going to move that back bokeh a little bit further back and adjust the front bokeh a little bit forward. Now that could be it, and I could just boost up those bokehs and make a really stunning photo. But I can also add all these different depth filters for all these different parts. But the really cool ones are down here at the bottom. For instance, this rain effect. It actually uses the depth effects of your phone, your camera, and applies rain in a depth-like pattern. You can even increase and decrease the background blur and bokeh of the foreground and the background. So that is the rain effect, which I think looks the best out of all of them. But there are a few others to choose from, including snow, which is getting to be more and more appropriate this time of year. There is sandstorm here at the bottom, which definitely isn't as cool, and maybe it's because I'm taking a photo of my cat on the carpet that it doesn't look as good. And then we also have fog, which looks pretty cool as well. This would be really cool for some outside landscape photography. Of course, you don't have to have any of those crazy effects. You can still just go to the manual ones, like changing your focus, your aperture shapes, your diaphragm shapes, and just increasing or decreasing the amount of blur and being able to adjust where in the photo those are. It is really impressive being able to do that kind of stuff here in the app. Of course, you can adjust other things like the hue of the image. You can make this change this a little bit more or less depending on what you want, whether you're trying to go for artsy or just more realistic lighting. Of all of the apps, this is probably the most unique and most fun app that I've played with. It's absolutely free, though the Pro version is an upgrade. So if you want any of those really cool features like these rain effects, that's something you're going to have to pay for. So put a bow on it, everyone. That is a wrap. There are 6 of the best applications for photo and video that have been upgraded here for the iPhone X. We looked at Filmic Pro for taking video, Darkroom for really editing photos, Halide and Pro Camera for taking great manual shots, Hdr for some HDR photography, and Focus to take some really stunning photos with that depth effect on any photo or camera that supports dual lenses. You can find links for all of these below in the description, and let us know what you think down in the comments. Subscribe, and until next time, this is Andrew for IDB.